Awesome. And I have a good friend of mine, James Bahanick, here on the podcast, Pushing the Edge, episode number 53, president and founder of Quick Lending here in Houston, Texas. Man, thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today is Halloween and it's Astros game number three, so go Stros. I predicted a 4-2 Astros going to win 4-2, so we'll see how that pans out today.
Yeah, I'd love a 4-2 victory. Any victory is a victory, but honestly, I think today might be the breakout day. I think we're starting to fire on all cylinders. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of like a 9-3 type finish today. We'll
Dude,
see how it goes.
I hope so, man. The game one was a heartbreaker. It was a freaking heartbreaker, but it's all good. You gotta get it out of the way.
I don't know what to think of Verlander in the postseason, man. 8 World Series starts, two no decisions, 6 losses, ERA north of 6. I mean, for literally the guy who's a generational talent, who's the best pitcher that these kids right now have seen growing up. He just can't seem to get it done in the postseason. Luckily, he's going to get a shot here in a couple of days to redeem himself and
Yeah.
hopefully bring home the gold. So.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, he's a stud, but yeah, it's weird because I didn't even know that he was those stats until I saw it on social media. They said that, they showed him with the Tigers and all his starts, and I'm like, damn, this dude has struggled in the World Series, So
I I saw him I saw him firsthand twice in 2019. So I was
yeah.
there. I was heartbroken live. I've seen three Verlander postseason pitching starts and 3 losses. So
Damn, damn, yeah. So hopefully he'll redeem himself, man. But Stros are definitely going to take the championship this year, man. So I'm
that
pumped about it. See,
absolutely, man.
is I mean they have to. I mean our other teams suck. So the Texans and the Rockets are not going to give us anything for a long time. So
And your Irish and my Aggies aren't exactly beating the world right now either. So
man, I'm not going to bring up the Aggies, man. Don't even. I was going to play fair. I was going to play fair. Okay, all right, man. Let's jump into this, man. I'm glad you're here. President, founder of Quick Lending. You guys started in your company was formed in 2017. But let's start with your backstory on how you kind of led up to that point because you guys have a super successful company now that's growing.
sure.
So how did that process start? How did James get into where you are now? What did that path look like?
Yeah, so as I alluded to a little while ago, went to Texas A&M for undergraduate. Ended up doing a little bit of a victory lap to get my master's there as well. And December 2007, graduated Master's of Finance with a concentration in commercial real estate. Right when, as some of the older people are going to remember, the world kind of collapsed on itself in the financial markets. Lehman Brothers, the
Hmm.
whole the whole Big Short movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a phenomenal story, or the book itself. Michael Lewis. It's a great read. Um, and I was kind of thrust into this, economy, not really necessarily understanding what was going on. I was lucky to make a few phenomenal contacts through grad school that put me kind of in the right place, the right time to be in what I would call continuing education mode. And what I mean by that is, I finalized out my master's degree thinking I was going to step out of college making anywhere between 75 and 100K because it was what the market was dictating then. I ended up having to humble myself and take a job making 40. But I took a job making 40 under the tutelage of some very successful people that continued to kind of show me the ropes, teach me more about real world financial, real world economic implications of some of these things. And I spent the next 5 years with a group that the day-to-day operations were commercial mortgage broking, but as a side project, they started buying distressed assets.
Hmm.
And they never hired an analyst. So de facto, me being the analyst at the firm I was at on the commercial broking side, I kind of became the de facto analyst for the acquisition company as well. And uh, I, I never let it bug me that I was making less than I thought I was going to be making. It was just like I said, it was continuing education for me. And through that, I developed the tools and the mindset to go be able to actually flip an apartment on my own. And so
Wow.
when I was 27 years old, I stepped out away from that and moved into kind of sole proprietor entrepreneurial mode and flipped my first apartment complex. Ended up buying two more. So we had three, we had three under management in 2015. Sold those, had a little bit of walking around money, nothing, to retire off of or anything, but more money in my bank account than I'd ever seen before. And I felt pretty good about that. And I remember it was my fiance at the time and I were walking in the park, and then she's like, well, what do you want to do now that, you sold off all these assets and you got time on your hands? And I was like, I think based on the direction of where asset pricing is and stuff, I kind of want to be on the paper side. And then I really dug deep into what it took to be a private lender. And so started doing a little bit of private lending on my own with some of the funds that I accumulated. And then one day I was on a very famous Texas A&M message board. And I just sent a sent a message out to the board saying, hey, if you had time on your side, money on your side, and frankly, not to be too unabashedly unhumble, but intelligence on your side, kind of what would you do? And this is kind of what
Right.
I'm interested in. And as you can imagine, it's a Twitter-esque type environment. So the replies were all like, this clown, blah, 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 doesn't know, like, there's no way, like, oh, he just wants this or he wants that, all the suppositions about exactly what I was trying to get to the bottom of.
Right.
But through all the noise, I received a private message from an eventual partner, and he just said, "Hey man, come meet up with us. Come to this barbecue joint. There's a group of us get together every week." This was December 2016. So I go, I meet the guys. I'm like, okay, I like it. Some of the partners had some professional poker experience, which we can relate to. I did a lot of that when I was in college. It's still something. It's still I wouldn't. It's a passion of mine, but I don't find enough time to
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
anymore. But it's still something that I enjoy doing from time to time. So we were able to relate on that level, and then they invited us to a yearly event that they host that now I'm actually a host of as well, that we do around the national championship game every year for college football. And as they say at that point in time, that the rest was history. They've been my unwavering partners ever since then, and we're going on. We're just past 5 years strong and moving into some bigger, better, exciting things.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
That's awesome, bro. And I think there's a bunch of nuggets in just that introduction that I wanna hit on. That I think it's useful and valuable for people. Is number one, you you go to an excellent university, but not only that, you get a great degree, graduate degree, and honestly, you probably you could have left there and made 80 grand, 90 grand, 100 grand.
At any point before I started the apartment ownership gig, I absolutely could have stepped away, found a job making 80, 90, probably 100 at that point in time. I had
Easy.
3, 4 years experience. The market had started heating back up again.
Right.
I I can honestly say that whether it was stubbornness or stupidity on my part, I never even like replied to any of those LinkedIn like, hey, come hire, come look at this, come look at that. I never got on Career Builders. I never got on Monster.com. I never even applied to anything else because I was too busy applying myself to what I wanted to do.
Right. Right. And that's what I want to touch on because it's you left there not looking just for a paycheck. You're looking for an opportunity. And I think that's where just from an entrepreneurial level, that's the golden ticket, right? It's like
Right.
it's seeing the writing on the wall. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make 40 grand. And most people, 95% of people would say that's stupid. Why are you gonna leave A&M, graduate degree, finance, where you can go make six figures and then you're going to make 40 grand. 95% of people would say that's the wrong decision. But obviously it was the right decision. And you took it because the value in the position that you're in is to learn was, 10x that, 15x
Sure.
that, right? So I think that's a huge golden nugget that people can can latch onto. And then the second nugget that I got from what you were doing is you leveraged your relationships to get in
Hmm.
front of the right people, right? So once again, strong, entrepreneurial trait where, okay, momentary sacrifice to make a little bit less money, but then not only that, I'm going to learn in the process. The second thing I want to do is I'm going to get in front of the right people so I can make the right moves. So I think those are huge 2 points that because a lot of times people want, you know, fast. They want, I want it now. I want, I deserve a six-figure salary, but I also want, everything else as well. But sometimes we got to make those moment to moment sacrifices. That was huge, man. So you make
Yeah.
those sacrifices, you get yourself in front of the right people, you find some great partners. You guys create Quick Lending in 2017.
Hmm.
What were the sort of maybe some of the challenges in the beginning? Because you start a new company.
Sure.
That's not easy. What were some of the challenges you guys faced during that time?
Yeah, well, for me personally, I went from a more or less employee that was kind of a do-it-all guy, like, hey, yeah, like a yes man, really. It's like I'd have, my boss be like, hey, like go do this, hey, go do that. And I never really thought one thing or another about it. It was just, my boss is telling me to do this, so I'm gonna go do it. Or my boss said to go figure this out, so I'd go figure it out. So I went from that mentality to the, I'm now a sole proprietor, and I kind of glossed over that kind of the time period. That was a 5 year time period where I had, I was the lone wolf guy. It's like I ate what I
Right,
killed. If I didn't make it happen, it didn't happen for me
right,
and my family. At
right.
the time, that was, I had jokes. My wife, like I'm fortunate enough that she doesn't have to work anymore, but she was a teacher by trade. She put almost 10 years in it between A-Leaf, ISD, and HISD, as a fifth grade teacher. The year that I got engaged, you can compare, our 1040 tax returns. She made more money than I did.
Wow.
She made more money than I did that year. And that was my first year making it, going at it, alone, trying to figure it out, what it was going to take in the world. And it was the drive. It was like, at first it was, I'm doing this for me. And then it was, I'm doing this for us. And then really what lit a fire under my ass. So I apologize on, put the explicit,
No,
but,
man, it's all good here. It's all good here. Yeah.
what lit the fire under my ass was that, my wife was pregnant, and I found out literally the day of that event, the day of that national championship event. It was that morning. I found out my
Wow.
wife was pregnant with our first kid.
Holy
And then I
shit.
was like, I'm not doing this for me anymore. I'm not doing this for me and her anymore. I'm doing it for me, her, and my future. And
Absolutely.
so, there are different things, and I'm sure that Blake can relate to some of the things I'm talking about right now. There are different
Absolutely.
things that'll find what lights your fire, right? And if you find what lights your fire, you'll gravitate towards that. I think people tend to overcomplicate, decision making. They tend to
Yeah.
overcomplicate what they do, what they're doing with their time. Let it flow. Like sometimes, and I'm not getting too hokey with like universe
Yeah.
and like the manifestation, all that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
stuff. No,
Yeah.
that's not. I'm not. That's not really the direction I'm going with this. I'm more, but I am more going with, if it seems too difficult, then you're probably not on the right path.
Right.
Find something that when you wake up every morning, this is what I'm going to do. Something, if you can't outline what you're doing this day, this week, this month, this year, and 5 years from now, you're not on the right path.
I love it.
And so figure out how to get on that path as fast as you possibly can, or you'll just find yourself 5 years from now being exactly where you were 5 years ago.
That's huge. That's huge, man. And I think having that clarity is powerful because like once again, that's a lot of people struggle with that. They struggle with, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right business? Am I in the right industry? But, just keeping it simple. And like you said, being able to, if you can clarify what you're trying to do now, and then also 5 years from now, chances are you're on the right path. But it's also, like you said, on the drive part. I mean, finding out that your wife is pregnant with your first child, and that same day, you meet your, your new partners, like, I don't know, divine, you call it divine timing or whatever you want to call it, but
Yeah, yeah.
I do believe that life has certain things set up where it's like, hey, this is an opportunity, seize the moment, it's
That
the right time for sure.
when yeah, luck is when timing meets opportunity. I think that's somebody
Yep,
famous
yep.
said that, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I love it, man. So you guys start quick lending. What did that process look like? I mean, did you obviously you're creating a new company. What were maybe some of the challenges on the company side that you guys faced in the beginning?
yeah, so part of it was some growing pains for me as a person, going from a single guy to an engaged uh, it's called a single kid to an engaged man to a newly found father. I mean, Quick Lending was founded in July of 17, and at that point in time, it was I was the guy. It was me and my partner had his roles, but like for me specifically, it's like I'm the one putting the website together at night. I'm the one cold calling, the prospect leads, and I'm the
Hmm.
one canvassing, the market to see and I'm not here to badmouth my competitors or anything, but I'm the one someone canvassing to see, what the market was, where I thought there was maybe some incongruencies, what maybe
Absolutely.
my competitors were doing wrong that I thought might be easier for us to do right. And we really did build the backbone of our business off of it was as informal as it was, surveying existing home flippers and then just kind of figuring out, hey, what do they need and how can we do it a little bit better? And
Right.
so that stuff for me was super intuitive. That wasn't necessarily difficult. It just kind of came to me. The more difficult side of it was, as I mentioned before, I went straight from being a employee to being a sole proprietor to being, boss man.
Right.
And it took me a while to even realize that regardless of who you take to lunch, what you may do, who you may drink a beer with after hours or whatever, at the end of the day, the dynamic's still there. The employee boss relationship still kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
And I kind of got thrust into that before I was probably ready for it. And so there was definitely some adjustments, kind of understanding, how other people tick, understanding that not everybody is, thinks the way that I think. Not everybody just gets a task and then does it, right? I mean, because
Right.
that's what I think that's what I thought employees did because that's what I did
Yeah.
when I was an employee. And then
Yeah.
I learned that quickly that it doesn't necessarily work out that way all the time. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
That and that's something that I think a lot of business owners can relate to, is especially because a lot of times their path started off as them being, everything in their business. And
yep,
usually they're really, really good at it. And then as they transform, it's like it's like an identity shift, professionally. It's like now you go from the solopreneur to where you're the boss and the worker at the same time, which by the way, I'm in that transition myself. And it's way easier, like from a day to day, to be by yourself.
oh, way easier, yeah.
It's way easier. Now you're not going to be able to, to hit your goals and fulfill the vision, but from a day to day, it's
Yeah,
way,
you're gonna have congratulations. You gave yourself a nice high paying job. Now, do you want a high
yeah,
paying job for the rest of your life, or do you want to do something
yeah.
more than you?
Absolutely. So taking that leap and growing into, a leader, that's what it is. It's
Right.
leadership and you're in the people business now, is difficult for a lot of people going into that. So what were some things that, were there some things that you learned, books, information? Was it maybe someone that mentored you that kind of helped you along your way to grow into that role?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in continuing education. As I mentioned before, I taught my first 5 year job almost as continuing education because it was under market. So for me, I'm like, hey, take this and then add the educational component to it, and I am in a market salary. But with that being said, uh, listen, I don't find enough time to actually physically read books, but I don't know who's familiar with temptation bundling, but if you're not familiar with it, it's a concept worth looking up. When I'm working out, I like to listen to audiobooks.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, those are managerial mindset audiobooks. Like the E-Myth is a good one.
That's a great one. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Actually, if you bear with me, just because I want to make sure I don't look over any, I'll just pull my Audible account
Yeah.
real quick and let you know the last 5 books that I listened to. Because I do feel like I remember Atomic Habits. That's another
That's a
one
good one. Yep.
that I know that I've listened to that one within the last 6 months actually. Um, right now I'm listening to Play Nice But Win. It's Michael Dell's story. I think that's a good one with when you're a lot of relatability for me and my path. He's from Texas, and and some of the places he mentions are places I've been to, and I find that to be a little bit interesting. Um, Obviously, most people know Think and Grow Rich, 7 Habits of Highly Effective
That's a good
People,
one. Yep.
um, and then Good to Great,
Jim Collins.
and
Yeah.
yeah, Traction, Rocket Fuel, obviously the EOS guys.
Yeah.
They're all, those are all things that I've listened to within the last 24 months.
That's awesome.
Um, and so I would say, and some of those I've listened to multiple times because it's nice. It's just a reminder that we're all here, we're all doing the same thing, and I think there's just a lot of nuggets in there. I think there's a lot of great
Yeah.
information. It's all very highly relatable, and I'd recommend any of those books.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what business you're in, people are involved, right? So it's like we're always in the people business, and being able to work with people and get the best out of them is a very important skill, to have. So that's awesome, man. So you made that transition into business owner, leader. You guys are growing your business. Let's talk about quick lending, where you guys are now, and what's the ultimate vision for quick lending, say 5, 10 years down the road.
Sure, yeah. So, we've, as I mentioned before, or as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, um, after I got done doing the apartment flipping thing, I kind of took a step back, looked at the market, and realized here's where I think there's some opportunity. And as the market starts to shift, our company is going to make some adjustments as well. And we've been fortunate to have double, if not triple digit growth year over year, every year since inception.
That's
And
awesome.
um, and, and we're nearing that still triple digit growth this year as well. With the exception of the COVID year, we only grew 20%. We grew over 100 every year.
That's awesome.
And obviously that's not long term sustainable, without making the proper adjustments. We're talking about, I'll call it AUM, assets under management, which
Right.
is our ultimate goal is to hit the $1 billion assets under management number. And so we are definitely doing several things to kind of push that along. One of which is we're going to start um, uh, platforming other potential lenders to come be a part of our universe, be a part of our ecosystem. We're building a proprietary software that's going to have a soft launch here, hopefully in February, if not, early Q2 next year. And that's going to allow us to really kind of take the business to the next level. And it's not something that we could have done overnight. It took the
Right.
5 years, the 5 years of experience of seeing, here's what could go right here, here's what could go wrong here. And as a reminder to anyone that's listening, you know, in the last 5 years, the economy, even through COVID, it's been run high. And
Hmm.
so there's lessons to be learned here that I still haven't experienced in the private lending world, when things start to cool down, which they are. I mean, the writing's on the wall with where interest rates are heading. And now uh, the chief economist of Moody's, I believe, came out yesterday and basically just put a blanket, America is going to have a 10+% drop across the board in housing prices for 2023. And it was a blanket statement. He said not a single metro is going to be able to avoid that. And so
Wow.
now I'm not saying that he's right, but I'm also not saying he's wrong. And so we have to be ready and poised to figure out how we're going to make those sort of adjustments. And yeah, and so part of that is maybe we start shifting more into the asset holding side of the business again, and not necessarily the note holding side. and we're trying to just figure out, the right partners to scale our right businesses with, because that's the direction we're heading next. Is it really we? I always said that we were a private equity company that was doing private lending. We weren't just private lenders, right? And so now our private equity company is starting to grow a little bit of wings of its own. And we're gonna, we're dabbling in construction. We have we have oh wow, it's actually $60 million of construction projects going up with a single operator.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're dabbling in a few other things as well, like fund to fund fundraising, like helping other people kind of facilitate the liquidity in the market that we have access to because we're out there, making those connections. And
Right.
so that's just a couple of the things that we're doing to expand the business.
That's awesome, man. And I think that's most companies don't make it. I think one of the biggest reasons why, just from not really from experience, really just a thought, and when I'm looking at companies, is not being able to adapt.
Sure.
And what you guys are doing is you're not just, yeah, you do private money, you do hard money loans, but like everything you're talking about here is the ultimate goal is to have $1 billion, assets under management, right? And you're making the right moves to get to the ultimate goal.
Correct.
And I feel like a lot of people get, they misinterpret like, well, but it's clarity, right? Like you guys have clarity, and versus like, well, we're just a hard money company. We're just going to push out loans, and that's all we're going to do. And I think a lot of people have that mindset in business. And then,
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
yeah,
And I'm being very honest when I say that's like you can either find yourself. There's really two ways to make a ton of money. Get really, 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 really good at one thing, and then continuously do that thing.
right,
Like that could have been the path that we took. We
right,
chose to take a slightly different path, which was to become to become partners, become money partners with operational guys. But we also expect our operational guys to be really, really good at that one thing.
right,
Otherwise, we'd go pick different partners.
right.
And so that's the quickest way to become a multimillionaire is to figure out a way to make a billionaire more money.
Absolutely.
And that's the mantra that we live by. It's like surrounding ourselves by the people that have the ability to make effectual change for organization and leveraging them, showing, proving out to them that what we're doing is worthwhile and investing in.
Absolutely. No, it's huge, man. And I think it's smart, and there's many different ways to skin a cat, but I think you guys are, being adaptable, being strategic, that's going to pay dividends. So you're doing an affiliate program. You're basically, it sounds like you're lending to lenders. Is that kind of
Yeah,
how
that
it
that
works,
that
or
that's correct. So, our time here, on the partners is, in order to leverage our time and scale that portion of our business, we're going to kind of take a step back. We've made some strategic operational hires to run the day to day. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot there. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be taking the next step. I wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
right,
But yeah, so in order to do that, is as I mentioned before, we're leveraging technology, we're leveraging experience, and we're leveraging, the human capital that we have in our office to go out and forge meaningful new relationships with people that are either doing it already or interested in doing that. And there's going to be an educational component to it where we show people, hey, look, here's the, as cheesy as it sounds, but the quick lending way, right? It's like, here's how we do things. And here's how we think that if you follow the ABCs, the path that we lay in front of you, how we think that you can be a successful partner of ours.
right. That's huge. Well, it's a path to success. I mean, that's the thing. It's a proven system that allows someone to be able to plug in, like you said, to you guys' ecosystem,
Correct.
and leverage their relationships, potential clients into y'all system where they don't have to overthink. How do I do this?
That's exactly right. There was and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the overthinking aspect of it. It is the fact that like we spent an inordinate amount of time drawing processes out, employing uh, 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 computer engineers to help draw wireframes so that we can build out systems and procedures and literally flowcharts and everything else, and then figuring out, oh man, I just put myself in an infinite loop.
Yep.
Machine can't figure this out. What do we got to do? and
Yep.
then and then working through the logical aspects of what it takes to create the answer that that we're ultimately looking for. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, you can still only scale your business as good as the people around you. And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, we're not trying to turn ourselves into like some large corporate machine to where we're outsourcing all of our complaints to a foreign country and just importing all the profits. That's not
Right.
what we're aiming for here. We're actually, and that the reason why we're interested in the white label, we have two different programs. We have the white label. If someone's more entrepreneurial mindset and they want to grow their own company, we want to create an environment that they can flourish within. We've also unveiled the blue label, and the blue label is just it's the quick lending banner, and you're going to come on and you can build your own business, but you can do it within our ecosystem. We felt like giving both offerings allows allows some flexibility on our operator partners to kind of determine what's the best fit for them, because maybe they don't want to build a website, maybe they don't want to like order their own business cards, maybe they don't want to build their own brand, maybe they just want to like umbrella underneath us, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
But we also just don't want to constrict the creativity or the work ethic of those that we want to work with. So
That's huge, man. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there for people that, that are in the real estate world, or, they're wanting, or they're in the lending business already, but they're struggling with their processes, and scaling that business to be able to plug in with you guys and then create their own white label. So it could be their own brand,
right.
and no one, but they're leveraging y'all's system and
Yeah,
resources,
it's
which is
the
huge.
blood, sweat, and tears that were put into this office, the amount of man hours that it took to train, the right people, and something that we probably did wrong was that we didn't hire consultants. We just trial by fire. We just figured it the F out.
Yeah.
Like literally, we just figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's probably not always the best way of going about it. Honestly, it's probably stubborn on my part. But what it has allowed us to do is move into more of a consulting type role in the future, to be like, hey, yeah, I've experienced this same exact thing. Here's how I handled it. Right.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, it, there are definitely times when I wish that I just would have wrote the check,
Yeah.
had the answer,
Yeah.
those sort of things. And so, creating the environment in order to allow someone to come do that. And that's not, we're not trying to turn this into a consulting business, but we're here to consult. We will be here to help, move things along, where need be. And so, you can really look at, anyone that's interested in this opportunity can really look at it as free consulting.
Absolutely.
Because at the end, it's we're gonna onboard you. We're gonna show you exactly what to do, and there's not gonna be any guesswork. It's just gonna be, hey, we need, A, B, C, D, E, F, G documentation. We need you to show that, you're a person of upstanding moral character, and we need to make sure that you understand basic math. And if you can
Right.
fulfill those three requirements, then it's up to you to put the work in, right? It's up to you to be, I can't force someone to go, send out 200 new text messages to prospective clients a day. I can't force someone to actually pick the phone up and understand what it's like to have that, fire under their ass to go get something actually done. That's
Right.
not, I mean, I leave that to you, Blake. You're the
Yeah.
motivational guy.
Yeah.
I'm just over here creating an environment that people can take, the type of things that you're showing them, and there's an output, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it's huge, man. And I think for someone that's listening to this, and there's going to be a lot of, I know you guys are going to keep growing that and scaling that opportunity. And I know it's new, but there's going to be a lot of growth to that coming up. So
Absolutely.
people need to plug in. I mean, in this economy, things are changing. People need, whether they are a lending company and are struggling. If I'm a lending company in Houston, I'm struggling. I may want to plug into a company that's having success. Hey, what are they doing? I want to plug into that
Sure.
process and that system. So that's an opportunity for them. But also, what if you're a wholesaler, right? And you sell a deal to a buyer. Plug that buyer
Hmm.
into y'all's lending to help solidify the deal. That's one of the fastest way to do it. So
Absolutely.
there's so many different opportunities for guys in real estate to plug in with you guys. I know you're doing, I don't know the details of it. You mentioned the construction. There's so many different variables that you can add value, and just the consulting. I mean, plugging in with people that have had success doing business with them, but in the byproduct, you're getting quality information. That pays dividends down the road.
You give me 15 minutes with a guy that's interested in doing something within this industry, and I think that I could point him within the right direction within our ecosystem to get something done.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to end the podcast, man. That's huge. So how can people reach you? What's the best way to reach you if they're interested in, number one, getting a loan, number two,
Sure.
participating in y'all's new business affiliation? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
No, the best way is just shoot me an email, man. It's easy enough, guys. It's james@quicklending.com. And I'm really good at answering emails. So if I don't respond back, within a couple hours, I'm either in a really important meeting or I got something really bad going on in my life, because I stay on top of my emails.
Or the Astros are playing.
or the Astros are playing.
Yeah.
Don't email me tonight.
Yeah.
I guess this isn't going to hit this won't hit the airways till till a little later, but
yeah, no, for real. Well, James, thanks for being on, brother. I appreciate it. Love seeing y'all's growth at Quick Lending, man, and looking forward to doing some big things.
Absolutely, Blake. Looking forward to it too. And I know that me and you got some big things coming in the future, so I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about that too.
Absolutely. Thanks,
All right,
brother.
bud.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.